Welcome back to Football on the 40. Our 1-0 Longhorns are headed up this weekend to play the team up north. Many questions about Texas and Michigan are still unanswered after week one games against outmatched opponents. For Texas, will Quinn and all the receivers stay on the same page in a hostile environment? And for Michigan, can they keep winning games without cheating? Do they have a QB battle on their hands that we are all familiar with? Is the stout defense still good? This week we're going to get into all that and more. I am your host, Bowen Kai. I'm joined by Kevin Mathis and Andrew Harris. Hey guys, and also quick note before we get into it. I forgot the past couple weeks to also shout out and thank our talented and esteemed producer, Hamilton Lizer, for all he does behind the scenes to make this show possible. Thanks, Ham. I am still ramping up on the MC gig, and I missed that the past couple weeks. But as we get into previewing and discussing Michigan, excuse me, fellas, how are y'all feeling about this huge matchup? How are y'all feeling after this really, really solid week one win over Colorado State? Andrew, we'll start with you first.
I'll just say I'm thankful Hamilton still produced the episodes the last couple of weeks. Could have been bad news for us, putting in the work and not seeing results. So thank you, Ham. Like Bo said, we appreciate it. Feeling great. Bo and I think we'll probably talk about this more, but very low heart rate type of game. It was pretty stress free with Colorado State. I'm kind of, I want to say it's proved a lot of offseason expectations because I think that's coming this week, whether it proves it or not. But I think it's a good early sign how we performed. And Colorado State has a very good offense, in my opinion, for a group of five school, and to hold them to 0 points, I think is really impressive. But Kev, what do you think?
Yeah, all those things. And we talked last week about how the approach to the game was to get as many people experience as possible. And the team maintained a really high level of play while giving everyone basically an opportunity to get on the field. Like, we didn't see a ton of procedural penalties. We didn't see a team that looked different when players were changing. And the shutout is a big deal. There were some big plays at the end of the game, although a lot of the fans had left, that showed us, that the team cares about stuff like that, keeping the 0 on the board. And
Yeah.
going into this week, I'm just grateful that we continue to be a part of like these awesome preseason or early season matchups with major schools. This is like, maybe like the 6th year in a row of big games, or 5th, playing LSU home and home, and then Alabama and now Michigan. As fans, we got to love that, right? Like, I think the head coaches hate the out of conference early season games that are really tough, but I mean, it's going to be awesome. Like, game day, I think, is going to be up there in Ann Arbor. You guys are going up, and there's just a lot to be excited about early on in the season for sure. So I'm really looking forward to this one. How about you, Bowen?
Yeah, I mean, y'all captured it well. I think low resting heart rate, which was the theme going into this weekend, and that came true. And we were pretty much on script for what we hoped. Like Arch Watch early in the third quarter, seeing Quinn like without his helmet coming out of the huddle, that was huge. We kind of called it out from the stands. But it was just fun to see them having fun out there, getting the second string, third string guys in there, getting reps, getting stuff on film. Yeah, so it was a super, super solid game. Can't really complain. Okay, so Colorado State's behind us. Big week ahead. Let's dive into the Michigan stuff. Andrew, why don't you start us off? We know Michigan and Texas are both big blue bloods. Give us the basics first. Who is Michigan? What should we know about them? What's the details that the listener should know about?
Yeah, so it's funny that you started the intro with the team up north. I guess we're taking the perspective of Ohio State now, but I love it. I love it. Michigan's our arch rival for this week, right? So, just a little more background on the University of Michigan. I'm pretty sure it is a public Ivy. I should have confirmed that in my research, but I think it's a public Ivy with the University of Texas. So, very prestigious school in its own right. Um, about 52,000 students go there. So similar size to Texas, actually, only an 18% acceptance rate. So it's a tough school to get into, and if you graduated from there, it's definitely a degree held with high honor. ranked number 21 on U.S. News rankings. So Texas is number 32. So overall, both schools are very high up on the ranking list. Famous alumni. So Gerald Ford went there. He's probably the most famous. Tom Brady, if you go into athletics, they have a lot of famous athletes I can rattle off, but just going to leave it there. I did not know this, but Madonna went there. Did y'all know that?
I didn't. I saw that
I
in the
definitely
prep.
did not know that.
Did she graduate?
She went there for
That's a
like
cool.
3 years. So like
Nice.
I didn't see if she graduated or not, but she went there for a significant amount of time.
Yeah, had no
It's not
idea.
like Michael Dell who went to Texas for like a semester.
Yeah.
James Earl Jones went there. John DeLorean, he's famous for the DeLorean car, which is most famous in Back to the Future. Larry Page went there. Dave Portnoy, if you want to dive into the barstool scene, not for everyone, but if you're into that, that's he's your guy. But yeah, I just have a question. If you asked a random person today, do you think they are more likely to know who Tom Brady is or Gerald Ford?
I
Tom
had that
Brady.
same question. When you said Gerald Ford was the most famous alum, and then I saw Tom Brady, or you said Tom Brady, I was like, I feel like people are not going to know Gerald Ford, but
Yeah.
everyone's going
Which
to
is
know
like
Tom
kind of
Brady.
sad. That's a
I
kind of
just I
sad.
just see
That
too
or
many videos of people like on the street that like don't even know who the president is now. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely Tom Brady.
but yeah, I mean it's just yeah, it's crazy because athletes just have so much recognition in the US and obviously actors, artists in general, just how much influence they have on our daily lives. So, I mean, Tom Brady might be the most famous alumni right now that's currently alive. Gerald Ford, obviously, not alive anymore. But diving into their football history, started in 1879, so about 15 years before Texas. They are the first school with 1,000 wins. I think they're at 1,005 now. Will be interesting to see what the NCAA says because they might be taking away a few wins from the past couple of years. I think we'll dive into that a little bit more later on. Um, but yeah, so they have, in my opinion, 4 legit national championships, 12 altogether if you want to count ones prior to 1936. But in my opinion, I don't think any school should be able to count national championships before 1936. And 1936 is when the AP poll first started to be in use. So that's kind of my standard basis for national championships. They won in 1947, 1948. They shared a national championship in 1997 with Nebraska. And then obviously last year, they ran the table and they won in 2023. So 3 Heisman winners, got Tom Harmon. I would not have been able to give you that first one, but Desmond Howard, he won in 1991, famously struck the Heisman pose against Ohio State right before he won the Heisman Trophy. And then Charles Woodson had a long NFL career, probably one of the best football players of that decade. He won it in 1997. The game will be at Michigan Stadium, which was built in 1927. It's called the Big House. It's called that for a reason. It's the biggest stadium in the country. Over 107,000 official people can sit there, but I would not be surprised if it's over 110,000 right now for the game this weekend. It's going to be an awesome experience. I'm excited to go. I know Bowen is too. But yeah, let's just kind of dive into previewing the Michigan team a little bit more. Unless y'all have anything else y'all want to say, just kind of background on Michigan.
I just wanted to ask like really quick, like what are y'all's plans for the weekend? You two are going to this game. So like when are you getting in? Where are you staying? Who are you tailgating with? Where are your tickets? Stuff like that.
We're both getting in late Thursday. Our buddy Blake is joining us too. He's a guest appearance on this pod, so we're excited to hang out with him. Um, Plans on Friday. We haven't solidified them yet. Listeners, if y'all have any suggestions, I know I want to see my coworker and his family, and they had a kid recently, so I'd like to be able to visit him because I work remote, so not a lot of opportunities to do that. And then we talked about going to like a Henry Ford museum or something like that. I don't know. We're all we're all pretty dweeby, so we want to go to the museum. And I think our hotel has like a golf sim, so we might do that.
You guys need to
But
get
yeah, I
out a
don't
little
know.
bit.
Yeah, we're gonna enjoy the weather though. It's
Yeah,
gonna be nice up there in Detroit.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think Bo, you said there's a casino up there. Maybe
That's true.
we'll hit that
That
at
is a
some
very
point.
good point.
So,
We will be going to the casino. That is for
yeah.
sure.
But yeah, excited to see Detroit. I've never been there. So it'll be fun. Really looking forward to the weather. So kind of diving into that a little bit more. The weather for Saturday, it's going to be 65 degrees, about 10 to 15 miles per hour for the wind. So a little breezy. Around kickoff, I think it's going to be probably in the upper 50s. And Josh Pate today, he was like, people traveling up from Texas going to this game after like consecutive weeks in the hundreds. It's like I forget the exact word he says, but essentially it was saying like a South team traveling up to cold weather. So kind of making a joke about that. So yeah, it will be a little bit chilly, but I think all our players will appreciate the cold weather for this week. Definitely not too cold, but um, Kevin, can you just kind of share a little bit of a background on just like players that have been, that Michigan's lost this past year from the previous team that won the national championship? They definitely lost a good amount of contributors.
Yeah, that's one of the major themes for this, looking at this Michigan team this season. And I think this is a stat that a lot of people have paid more and more attention to in the last few years, especially. Um, Basically, they have like a lot of returning production. Well, they don't have a lot of returning production. A lot of their players went to the NFL and graduated. Out of um, like 135 or so teams that are ranked in this category, they're 128th. So they have turned over not the entire team, but a lot more than is typical in college football. And sometimes that's an indicator that there's going to be a drop off, especially early in the season. So they're kind of like on some radars to be a little bit overrated here early in the season. And to take the other side of the coin here, I also looked at what they were in this category leading into the last season, where they obviously won the national championship, and they were fifth in returning production in 2023. So there's not a lot of recognizable names that we're going to see on the field from watching CFP games in the national championship last year. We'll talk about it a little bit here, but it seems to be like they have a little bit of a quarterback battle, and definitely on the defensive side of the ball, they got a lot of players that are new and don't have a whole lot of experience from last season and years past. So it's kind of one where like, the brand is the same. It's still Michigan. There's some changeover at head coach, but their roster is really, really different this year than years past, which makes this one kind of hard to pick and hard to analyze. You listed out some of the key players that were out. Do you want to name them?
Yeah, I mean everyone knows about JJ McCarthy. Everyone kind of had an opinion about him in college last year. Was he actually good? Was he just a byproduct of the system? But regardless, I think I forget how many losses he had. I think it was either one or two in his whole career. So can't deny that he was a great leader. And I mean, Michigan, I think they won a national championship because of him, along with all their other players. But I don't think he was a detriment by any means. I still not like the biggest fan of JJ McCarthy, but overall, I think he had a big importance in the team last year. Blake Corum, Roman Wilson, and those are some other guys on their offense that were real good. Chris Jenkins, Junior Colson, other guys on their defense that were big. I think they had like 13 draft picks or something like that compared to the 10 from Texas. So huge amount of production that was lost. And they, I think they kind of saw how that affected them this past week on the offensive end. They definitely didn't move the ball very well, and they had to replace all five starters on the offensive line. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Texas came into this year having 4 or 5 guys back. So that's a huge difference where the lines are going to kind of determine this game, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I don't think we'll really know until this game's over, until this weekend's over. But I also read like there's only one player on their defense that started more than half of their games last season. So a lot of turnover. They have been recruiting really well though in the last few years. So it's not like they don't have any talent. It's just new names that the media doesn't have a good understanding of. But
Yeah.
you mentioned last week a little bit, like go a little bit more in depth about what we saw on the field with them playing Fresno State at home.
Yeah, they won the game. They won 30-10, but it was a lot closer than I'm sure Michigan's wanted. It was 23-10. Actually, it was 16-10 in the fourth quarter. They scored a touchdown, and then Fresno State was going down the field with about 3 or 4 minutes left. They were on the like 15-yard line for Michigan, roughly, and Will Johnson, one of their star cornerbacks, he just read the play perfectly, intercepted the ball, returned it back for about 85 yards for the touchdown. That kind of sealed the game. But overall, I don't think Michigan fans were super impressed by the performance of the Wolverines, even though Fresno State is not a bad group of five team. But Davis Warren, he was the quarterback for the Wolverines, which is a little bit of a surprise. I thought it was going to be Orgy. Yes, that is his name. I'm not saying it wrong. Just got to go with it. But yeah, Davis Warren, he was 15-25 for 118 yards. He had a touchdown and a pick. But the interesting about him was he targeted their tight end a lot, Colton Loveland. Colton Loveland, when targeted, Davis Warren was 8 for 9 for 87 yards and 1 touchdown. So about 3/4 of the yards of Warren on Saturday came when he was targeting the tight end. So that's a pretty big margin, and I don't think Michigan can rely upon that this weekend, especially given our linebackers. I mean, we have some of the best linebackers in the country, in my opinion. So I don't think Michigan can rely upon that as much. Orgy, like I said previously, he played a little bit. He did actually have a passing touchdown, but it was kind of more of a gimmicky goal line offense type of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, what do you got, Kev?
We alluded to this earlier, like they may have some uncertainty about who their starter is or how their system's going to work, if they're going to play like a 2 quarterback system. But I didn't watch much of the first half of this game and didn't actually realize that Alex Orji actually played in the first drive and helped them score. So it wasn't like he was coming in late in the game or in the third quarter when they had a lead to get some experience. It was part of their game plan to bring him in a goal line package and have him score, first drive of the season. So he seems to be kind of like that Tyrone Swoops mold, like bigger body, run first, but can hurt you with the pass too. But I found that really interesting, that the reigning national champion is starting, a former walk-on and actually playing 2 quarterbacks in their first drive of the season. So it's something to watch for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, the old phrase that they've always said is when you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. So I don't think that's a good sign for Michigan. Donovan Edwards, he was part of the two-headed monster the last couple of years with Blake Corum. He had 11 rushes for 27 yards. He's the type of guy, once he kind of gets 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, he can go to the end zone very easily. Blazing speed, but did not showcase that this weekend. Mullings had a lot better of a day, 15 carries for 92 yards, so about 6 yards a carry, which is definitely on the upper end of college football running backs. But yeah, so overall, I would not say it was an offensive performance to kind of marvel at, but I'm sure Michigan has some things up their sleeves this weekend that they're going to present Texas. Kev,
Yeah.
you want to dive into the defense a little bit more?
Yeah, I think another question that Michigan has coming into this season is whether or not their defense is going to be playing at the same level as it did last year. They were dominant. In 2023, they were second in yards allowed at around 240 a game, and first in the country in minimizing points allowed. They allowed less than 10 points a game at 9.5. So sure, they've got a lot of turnover and who's on the field, but this is a defense that should not be taken lightly. I think the impression is that the whole team played pretty bad against Fresno State. They got the win. But after looking at like their box score and some things that people were writing after the game, their defense actually played pretty well against Fresno State. They had 3 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. The longest rush that they allowed was 9 yards. They got 2 interceptions. One, like you mentioned, Andrew, was a really long pick six that got them points. And on third down, they only allowed 2 out of 11 on third down. That's 18%. So um, the defense was pretty good. And it'll be an interesting matchup to watch Sark kind of scheme and go against that group of guys because they actually played pretty well against Fresno State. The one area that I saw that they might be a little bit weak on that matches up very nicely with the Longhorns, given that a lot of our offensive production on Saturday was based on like the quick pass game and the intermediate pass game, is Michigan looks a little bit weak in like early down quick passing. Um, like the defense was dominant, but Fresno State had just as many first downs as Michigan did. So they were scoring or getting a lot of first downs on first and second down in the pass game. So that might be a matchup that really favors the Longhorns actually on the road. Now,
That,
yeah, go ahead, Bowen.
oh, I was just gonna mention that's awesome to call out because our linemen got downfield quick on those. That was like really, really cool to see how mobile our guys were up front. And so these quick screens, quick dump offs, if that goes well, that's gonna be something I'm gonna watch out for on Saturday for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that's definitely something to key in on. And a lot of that production that they lost year over year was in their secondary. So keep an eye on it. I'm not saying we're definitely going to win the game based on that, but it's one of the things that might be in our favor. Now, you can't preview Michigan's defense without talking about cheating. So Netflix released a new documentary in their Untold series about the 2023 Michigan football sign stealing allegations. Of course, I watched the whole thing. So I'm going to share a couple takeaways from that documentary, and I'd like to discuss it. Um, Connor Stallions, lifelong mega fan of Michigan. I didn't know this, but he always wanted to be a Michigan coach. He first started stealing signs at Navy while he was a college student. After Navy, he became a Marine, and he started doing this for Michigan for free. He was paying for his own travel from where he was stationed for the Marines in California. And to raise money for all that travel, he would Airbnb his house and slept in his car at a gas station. So high levels of commitment. And he actually wasn't doing this for money in the beginning. Stallions was famously photographed on the Central Michigan sideline wearing Snapchat sunglasses, disguised as a Central Michigan coach. In the documentary, Barstool's Dave Portnoy confirms that this was, in fact, Connor in disguise. Um, After resigning from the team last year, and I didn't know this either, Connor Stallions attended 2 Michigan games during the scandal after he had left the team. He went to the Ohio State game wearing a ski mask and even stormed the field after that game. And he also went to the national championship in Houston. No disguise, no mask in Houston. Um, During this documentary, Connor Stallions alludes to this a couple times, but he estimates that 80 to 90% of college football teams are also running sign stealing programs. And lastly, this season, college football now has in-helmet communications, which should result in less sideline signaling, and it should help limit sign stealing programs like this one in the future. So, Andy, Bowen, should Texas be worried about Michigan stealing our signs this weekend?
So you can take this one first. I got some thoughts about the doc overall.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch the doc, but that was a phenomenal summary. I'm kind of mind blown that he had the audacity to attend 2 games during the scandal, and you that I guess that just he's an addict. Michigan football is the only drug he wants. He's the national championship. Like that is bold for sure. I think yeah, for sure. Last season, if we didn't have the in-helmet communications, I'd be more worried. Although I think Andy and I did point out we did still have signs on the Texas sideline yesterday. Kev, I don't know if you saw that from where you were sitting. So I don't know if that was like backup signs or like for the skill position players in case they can't get the signal from Quinn or something. But yeah, we still had some sign usage, which was kind of confusing to me. But yeah, I'm not overly concerned now that we have the in-helmet communications. I hope that Um, you know, at least we got some on-field practice with the helmet communication. I think it's going to be really loud this weekend. So that's probably like my concern on like the communication standpoint. But in terms of stealing, I think that'll be a lot more difficult to
Yeah.
do. Andy, what do you think?
Just a kind of a quick question about the helmet communication. I mean, y'all would probably know better than me, but wouldn't y'all think that would be based on like radio communication with like the coach and the players, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
which
it
like,
is.
wouldn't
Oh
that
yeah.
be fairly easy to like crack?
it would, but the one thing that gives me some comfort is that this is a proven system that's been used in the NFL for like I don't know, 12, 15 years. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are various ways that they could like encrypt that in, you call it encryption in transit. And it's probably a pretty secure way of sharing information that's fairly safe. You obviously you could still, you know, you could still hack it and break into it. So it's not perfect like anything that has an internet connection or is sending
yeah.
information. So
Okay. No, that's good. I was just kind of curious about that because obviously you never hear about it in the NFL, but you kind of think, well, it doesn't seem like it'd be that hard to kind of crack the code.
no.
But yeah, I think it would be a way bigger issue if it happened all the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, but yeah, the documentary was really good. I think Kevin did a great job kind of summarizing everything, and I yeah, it is crazy how big of a fan he was. He's like definitely one of the like 1%er of like every fan base that are just like actually defined by the word fanatical, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just it's interesting to me. And Kevin, you brought this up how there's like 80 to 90% of college programs that does it that are used to do it. Obviously, things have changed this year. I would not, to me, like I wouldn't be surprised if Texas did it. Like I wouldn't be surprised if other schools did it. I know, like Clemson, even before the documentary, I knew they've have had history of doing it. The other programs as well. TCU, I think, when they were doing their national championship run, some people at Texas were kind of not so happy about it at all. Obviously, I'm not for stealing signs in a legal manner. It is interesting to me. It kind of there's definitely parallels with like the Astros, um, their debacle that they had with the trash cans and all that. But to me, if it's hard for me to get over if everyone's doing it, I I mean it was like Michigan that got caught, if that makes sense. So it's not like I'm condoning it, but I also like don't blame Michigan for doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And like the whole documentary was very sympathetic to Connor Stallions. It gave me the impression that any court proceedings related to this haven't fully panned out, and the NCAA hasn't made decisions like you alluded to about making Michigan give games back. So the matter hasn't exactly been settled, and it was sympathetic to Michigan and this Connor Stallions guy, but
Yeah,
um, the only illegal part of it, they say, is using technology to aid in sign stealing. So like recording with Snapchat glasses, buying tickets for people and having them record the sideline for you. Like that's the part of this that's kind of nefarious, not necessarily watching coaches game tape, which is already
yeah,
available, and having extra people on board to help out. So I don't know, it's just we couldn't have this pod without talking about that. So
yeah,
and I
definitely.
was assigned with looking at the defense. So I really enjoyed that deep dive. I hope you guys did too.
Yeah.
Um, Next up, we got our second edition of weekly trivia led by you, Andrew. Um, Take it away.
Yeah. Okay. So we uh we started this off last week in our pod. Kevin took the 2-0 lead in the season. He got one question right, and he ended up winning the week overall. So that's why he got the 2 points. Bo, this is a great time for you to kind of catch back up. You could even take the lead if you get both questions right and
That's the goal.
uh,
That's the goal.
and the weekly bonus. So I'm going to ask all this. The viewers, I think, were a little concerned that all the trivia was going to be about my personal life and affiliations with Texas athletics. Well, I'm going to guarantee y'all that's not going to happen. So this week, kind of the theme is going to be Michigan, just based on the importance of this matchup. And there's a lot of, cool facts around Michigan overall and just kind of parallels with Texas. But guys, are y'all ready for weekly trivia round 2?
Let's do it.
Okay. So both questions, the answer is a number. So whoever is closest to the number is going to be the winner for each question. So there will be a winner for each question this week. So the first question is Bo Schembechler. He was a coach from 1969 to 1989. So roughly 20 seasons. But yeah, so he was a coach of Michigan for a long time. He's the winningest coach in Michigan history. So guys, I want to ask y'all, how many wins did he have at the University of Michigan? Give y'all a few seconds to answer this one. He and Darryl Royal kind of became good friends after a while, but they never faced off against each other. It is interesting.
I'm ready.
Are y'all ready?
Answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just do honor code. We'll do Bowen first this time, and then Kevin first the next time. So Bowen, you go first.
Okay, I have 192.
Okay. Kevin, what's your answer?
I have 171.
Bo was incredibly close. It was 194.
Wow.
So-
Nice. Nice.
Way to go, Bo.
Nice.
Okay, you caught back up. This question for Bo's could be worth 2 points. For Kevin, it could be worth 1. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Texas and Michigan surprisingly have only played one time. It was the 2005 Rose Bowl, which was for the 2004 season. Vince Young had an incredible day. He led Texas with a 10-point deficit comeback in the fourth quarter. Just really did a remarkable job, and that was his first Rose Bowl performance. And obviously, he would top that the year afterwards with the game against USC. But guys, I want to ask y'all, how many yards did he have total that day?
I was hoping for a different question there.
Were you hoping that I would give you the answer? Or I guess what were you hoping for?
I was hoping for what was the score of the game. But total yards. I'm ready for it if you want me to go first on this one.
Yeah, Bo, are you ready?
I have a number, yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I'm going to go 330.
Okay.
I'm going to go 391. That was the number I had.
Bo is closest again. Kev, you weren't too far off, but the answer was 372. So, Bowen,
let's go.
you took the lead.
Whew.
You're back.
Wow.
You're back 3-2 now on the season.
Looking like Charles Leclerc. Looking like Charles Leclerc, Kev.
And it was,
but
on the score, I know
weekend.
this doesn't, we don't get points for this, but the score was 37-38, right?
Yeah.
And was it Dusty
dang.
Mangum that made the field goal?
It was very good. I could have asked that too.
I hope my dad listens to this. He'll be proud of that.
But yeah, just kind of one more thing about that game. Vince Young had 192 yards rushing that day, which is wild to me. And part of that was the 60-yard run he had at the beginning of the third quarter for a touchdown. Yeah. So and just an incredible day.
Yeah, one more thing that I thought was interesting, and I'm not sure if this was a glitch in the website that I was using to do some research, but like we're talking about Michigan, that's the most in any program in college football, and Texas, who's like 4th or 5th on that list. They've only played that one time.
Yeah,
this is the only the second matchup between these schools, and the first one in the regular season. That is crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, it makes sense. Like a long time ago, they're 2 different parts of the country. Travel was harder, but within the last 50 years, to only have played once, just is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that concludes weekly trivia. Let's go to weekly betting corner. Bo, lead us into that.
Nice. Thanks, Andy. Big week for me on Andy trivia. also followed up by a big performance by me on Betting Corner, folks. After week one of college football, I am in the lead with 3.8 units, followed closely, not too closely, but followed by Kevin with negative half a unit roughly. And Andy had a less than ideal performance in week one with a minus 5 unit performance, negative 5 unit performance. So both of these guys believed in our little brother A&M this weekend, which was misplaced, but we just got to move on. We gotta look ahead to the week ahead and see if week two bodes better for these guys and for myself as well. So we'll go first into the Texas Michigan game. As a reminder for our listeners, as a rule, we all have to have some sort of action on this game. It can be on Michigan, it can be on Texas, but we want to have some skin in the game on our matchup for the week. So we are going into Ann Arbor as 6.5 point favorites. So Vegas expects us to win by a touchdown, more or less, going away, a really, really hostile environment. 6.5 points on the road. That's pretty crazy. We are minus 240 money line favorites. So winning outright, you would have to bet $24 to win $10, which is a pretty tough investment, I would say. And then the total for the game is a lot lower than it was last week. It's just 44.5 points. So that speaks to Vegas's belief in what Kevin was previewing with Michigan's stout defense, as well as what Andy was saying as well. I think it's going to be a pretty tight matchup. We'll start, Kevin, with you first. What action are you liking on this game? Do you see a line for you to kind of make some money here?
Yeah, I'm really conflicted about this one because before the season I picked us to lose this game, and that was before we watched them play Fresno State. But I do still want to like maintain my low expectations, so I'm gonna hedge my heart here a little bit and bet on Michigan to cover that line for 1 unit. I also saw Bovada has first quarter odds. So the line in the first quarter is for Texas to be up by a half a point at the end of the quarter. I think Sark's really good in these games. He mentioned in his press conference today that they had been practicing specific plays for this matchup kind of all summer and in the fall without the team knowing. He made similar comments before we played Alabama last year. So I think he's going to have a good script, a good plan for early in the game, and we'll start hot. So I'll put 2 units on the Texas cover in the first quarter, but kind of fade that with Michigan to cover for the whole game.
Man, the first Kev hedge of the year.
The
Yeah, I
emotional
like it though.
hedge.
The
Yeah,
emotional
it's a
hedge.
pretty layered investment. I like it.
Yeah.
Andy, what about you?
Love it. So last week I was hurt by most of my picks, and the only pick that was successful, I went opposite of my natural instincts. I'm gonna do the same thing for most of my picks this week, and especially this game. So I really love the under in this game. I think it's gonna be a defensive battle. Somehow we're gonna get the over, baby. Give me the over for I think it was 44.5, Bo. That's what you said, right?
Yep.
Yeah, give me the over for 2 units. I don't really believe in it, but that's probably good for my investment.
That's so
What
funny.
about you,
Yeah,
bud?
I think we had a pretty similar conversation last week where I also like the over, but that is my natural instinct. So I don't know what that says about where my head's
That's
at.
probably
But
a good thing then.
I'm taking the total this week as well. I'm going over. I think it'll be like Kevin said. I think we'll get off to a hot start. I think it'll be pretty tight, in the mid part of the game, and I think we'll pull away at the end. So I like the over 44.5 points on a college football game. Like that's what are we, Iowa? Like the 44.5 is, that's I think we'll be able to topple that. So that's my bet for the Texas game this week, and that's the only bet I'm taking. I'm kind of taking this new strategy this season where I'm getting more focused. I'm not, spreading my investments. I'm just gonna focus on Texas. We'll see how long that lasts. So I don't have anything elsewhere around college football. Andy, you might. So I'll start with you first. What else do you like out there on these week two matchups?
Yeah. So I have three other picks. So these 2 of the 3 are against my natural instincts, like I said. So we'll see how this week goes, but Oklahoma State. I think Arkansas showed a lot last week, even though they played a pretty poor school. So Arkansas Pine Bluff, they don't have a lot to offer, but yeah, give me Oklahoma State to cover. I was definitely thinking Arkansas would cover that. So going against my instincts there. Kind of similar for Tennessee. I guess I really thought Tennessee would cover the spread in this game against North Carolina State, but I'm not feeling confident about that. But I do think they will win. So kind of quasi going against my instincts there. Give me 4 units on the money line for Tennessee. Not a huge payout there, but hopefully that hits. And then lastly, this is the one where I just can't go against my instincts. I don't see how Clemson could beat Appalachian State by more than 17 points. Um, I just don't think Clemson has the offense to do that. So give me Appalachian State to cover for 2 units.
Wow, nice. Dabo stocks are at an all-time low. I feel
Yeah,
like this
I
is like
know.
a buy low opportunity, but might be a trap. Kevin, what
I
about
saw.
you? What are you liking?
just one more Dabo dig there. I saw they punted like 7 times this weekend, so that's rough.
Not
Um,
good.
I've
Can't
got
relate.
one other
Can't
bet.
relate.
Yeah. We punted once. That was great.
Yeah.
I've got one other bet. Houston is playing at Oklahoma. Oklahoma to me looked pretty good, and the line is OU's favored by 29.5. College football radio tells me Houston's really bad, and that's just kind of a surprise. But I like OU to cover that. I'm going to put 4 units on that, and that's it for me right now.
Nice. I like it. I like it. All right. I will get those bets in. Next,
Yeah, we'll
fellas,
do.
what are y'all's score predictions?
Andy, you go first. Texas versus Michigan score prediction.
Yeah. I kind of have a similar thought process to Bo. I think Texas will kind of get an early jump. It will be close. I think by the start of the end of the third quarter, Texas kind of pulls away. Give me 31-20 Texas for the victory.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll go next. I'll go next, Kevin, and then you can close this out. My thesis is pretty similar to Andy's. Mine was 28-21. I think we will cover barely. I don't like it though. It's gonna be pretty close. And I think we will hit the over though. So 28-21 is my thoughts.
Yeah. Now I'm going to stick with my original prediction for this season that we're not going to take it. I do think we'll look very competitive, and after this game, we'll be reminding ourselves that expanded college football playoff hopes are not dashed because of a loss in Ann Arbor. But that's going to be a tough environment. It's going to be loud. A lot of new challenges that we didn't face this week. So I'm going to say we lose in a close one, 24-28. Michigan takes it. Let me ask this quick before we start to wrap up though. Um, we handled Colorado State. Obviously, we started very highly ranked. In-state rivals, not looking great. If we go on the road here and have a similar performance as we did last year against Alabama, like what does that mean for the rest of the year? Like, are we looking at like a one-loss season, an undefeated season? Like, how significant would a performance like that be for us as fans? What do you think,
Yeah.
Anthony?
It's tough to say because I can see I can see different paths for Michigan going forward. I think when we beat Alabama last year, we knew they're still going to be really good. Nick Saban teams are always really good. They're not going to fall off. I think there's definitely a scenario where Michigan, they kind of stumble throughout the season. They might end up like 8-4, and I don't know if this victory would mean as much to us this year as last year. I definitely can't say we're going to go undefeated if we win this game because we still have Georgia. So we can't. I can't say anything until after the Georgia game, but I think it's like would be a great mark, and if we play well and we win, I think it shows that we can beat any team in the country. So that's kind of my perspective. Bo, what do you think?
Yeah, I think early test for sure. We're gonna be opening up the playbook. I don't think Sark's gonna really leave anything on the table. I mean, I think the running game for us was like the big question mark, right? And I think Blue looked pretty good last week. We'll see how much he can follow it up this week. O-line, as I alluded to earlier, looked really good last week. So I feel like if we can control the run game, control the pace of the game, like that's going to be big for us. And as far as what that means for the rest of the season, I think yeah, it bodes super well. If our defense holds up, if our run game, I mean the receiving core solid, run game, if we can button that up, I think that'll take us through, through the season, really. So yeah, I think we'll definitely learn a lot this weekend.
Yeah. Andrew, I thought you made a great point in that sure we might win, but what if Michigan goes like 8-4? So it's hard to tell, but with the national attention that will be on this game day there, hearing a lot of commentary about it on Saturday morning and going straight into the game with basically the whole country watching, like it might just mean like an unbelievable amount of hype for the Longhorns
Yeah.
early
Big
early
news
to
there
Yeah.
too,
mid-season,
yeah.
which do
Yeah,
what?
big news there too.
Big
Big
news there
news.
too, huh? Yeah.
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 Maybe that's what we'll do on Saturday. We're gonna try to get on TV or something.
Make
No,
your
we'll have to
Oh
get
sign.
there like at like 7 a.m. That'd be really rough. Ubering
Yeah.
from Detroit.
man.
I mean,
Anyway, we're looking forward to it, fellas. I mean, listeners, I hope y'all are too. It's gonna be a good one this weekend.
Yeah,
Before
for
before I
sure.
wrap up, we do have a mailbag segment. Folks, you can find the link to our mailbag on our Instagram bio. Feedback, questions, life advice, whatever it may be, definitely reach out. We do have one submission from listener Shannon Mathis. This is addressed to Kevin, her brother. Okay. She says, this question is addressed to Kevin, who was responsible for researching and presenting notable Colorado State alumni on last week's podcast. Kevin, how could you overlook Becky Hammond, the first female assistant coach in the NBA and Colorado State University class of 1999? We grew up Spurs fans. Her hiring was monumental. If those random astronauts got a shout out, Becky deserved one too. Please ask Laurel for additional research time as you prepare for future podcasts so you don't have another big miss. Wow. Okay. I think Andy, as a San Antonio Spur fan, should also get some blame here. But Kevin, you shoulder primary blame here. What is your rebuttal?
mea culpa there. I guess I gotta look at the date on the articles that I looked at. Maybe that was a stale website, but um that's on me. That's on me. And we appreciate when our listeners hold us accountable. We're big on factual information and accountability, and that one stings, but like a lot of head football coaches, you learn in the first game and you improve.
I
So
like
that's some
it.
good tape that we
Yeah.
can watch, and I will ask for more free time from my wife, but oof, you could have shared that feedback more privately, Shannon.
That's huge. We love the
Oh man.
accountability. We love taking ownership.
Yeah.
That's huge, Kevin. So, Shannon,
Yeah.
thank you. Any other listeners, if y'all have any other feedback for us, we're definitely open for that, and
For sure.
we will improve for sure. Well, folks, that'll do it for us this week. Thanks again for listening. We hope y'all are looking forward to this Michigan game this weekend too. We are definitely looking forward to it. If y'all see us in Ann Arbor, if y'all have a tailgate we can crash, definitely let us know. We'll see some of y'all out there enjoying the nice, almost fall weather up in Michigan. So again, I will not be rocking the camping hat this week. I'll be rocking a new hat I got at the co-op. So look out for that. It's gonna be making a debut. Once again, thanks for listening. That'll do it for us. We'll see you on the next Football on the 40.
Hook 'em.